They're not going to foul. The Heat will let it play out. It's over. At last, the long wait is over. After 47 years, the Denver Nuggets can finally call themselves NBA champions.
All right, hello everyone, and welcome back to Basketball on the Mountains. This is episode 15, an emergency episode, because the fall from grace from the intro video of the Nuggets winning the title to now less than 2 years later, everyone is fired. I was already planning on doing an episode today, just with the 4-game losing streak, which we'll talk all about this on the podcast today. Already going to talk about kind of all the scenarios for the Nuggets and kind of everything kind of going in the wrong direction. And now everything's been blown up. Michael Malone and Calvin Booth have been fired earlier today. I think Malone at least was tied for the latest firing in NBA history. Everyone went nuts over Memphis firing Taylor Jenkins with 9 games to go. And Josh Kroenke said, wait, just you wait. I'm going to fire Michael Malone and Calvin Booth with 3 games left in the regular season as the Nuggets are in a down spiral, 4-game losing streak, 6-9 in the last 15. Any scenario is possible from 3 to 8 in the standings heading into this last week, where the Nuggets are at Sacramento on Wednesday, home against Memphis on Friday, and then closing out the regular season on Sunday at Houston, who might not have a lot to play for, but so much could happen in the next week. And the Nuggets decided, we don't want Michael Malone running the ship anymore. And whatever comes in the playoffs, it's going to be David Adelman, who's the interim coach. And we've got so much to talk about today to break it all down. And I wanted to have this be an emotional episode. I did not want this to be, a solely pragmatic thing, because it's just an instant gut reaction. And I obviously don't really have that as someone who covers the Nuggets regularly and it is not from here, but I enjoy talking about this team. And I wanted to bring on my guy, Troy Finnegan, today, who's been on the podcast multiple times already to talk college hoops. But now Troy, who works at ClutchPoints, you can go follow him over on Twitter at Troy Finnegan. He is the biggest Nuggets fan I probably know. And Troy, I just wanted to get your instant reaction to one of the maybe most stunning set of moves that we've seen probably in Nuggets history and maybe Denver sports history, just with the timing and everything.
Yeah, it's up there. You say anything 3 through 8 is possible. It feels like the numbers closer to 8 are more possible than the ones closer to 3. My instant reaction was the timing is obviously surprising for the reasons that you laid out. This is unprecedented for a team that is a playoff team. I'm not going to any more praise than that, but to be firing their coach with just 3 games left is ridiculous. Overall, the writing was on the wall for this. I think that I was joking with someone the other day that Booth was packing Malone's stuff in the office as the Pacers game was happening in the second half. So I'm not really surprised that the move was made. I am surprised that it happened at this point, but I do see the logic in it. We'll get into that. But it was just kind of like April 8th with a team who's in this mishmash of a Western Conference playoff race. You mentioned the seed range. It was just like really like right now,
in the midst of maybe one of the best offensive seasons of all time from Nikola Jokic. Yeah. And he's probably not going to win the MVP at this point. I think SGA is pretty safe in that regard, but it's still the best offensive season of Joker's career. And in Josh Kroenke's statement, he said that this is about giving themselves the best chance to win the title in 2025, which I don't buy that literally at all. It just feels like you're punting on this. Like, I don't know. I don't really think there's anything that can salvage this. So maybe it doesn't really matter, but I don't think a shakeup in the last week of the season is going to do much to help their postseason chances. I mean, you can make the case why you think this does help kind of maybe the postseason chances, but I just don't think, I think there's a lot of people in that locker room that loved Michael Malone and did a lot for their career. I mean, even for a guy like Joker, he's the only coach he's ever known in the NBA. And I saw somebody, I think it was Matt Moore, reported that Nikola was told about the decision before it happened, but it didn't seem like he was consulted about it. So it seems like he was given a heads up before the decision was made, but it wasn't him kind of being involved in the process, which isn't really surprising, kind of given Nikola's nature. Just So do you think this is helpful for them? The rest of the 3 games left in regular season, and then can this be fixed at all with David Adelman and whatever they want to do here in changing things at this stage of the season?
I mean, I don't know that it helps in the sense where I'm going to be picking them to beat some of these teams now, but it was kind of the last bullet that they had. I think at this team, I think the last 4 games have been kind of blown up as like, oh my God, the sky is falling. This team has not looked like a championship level basketball team at any point this year. The discourse throughout the year was really, the West is like the Thunder, and then the Lakers have had all of their stuff going on, and the Warriors with all the trades. But everyone was kind of like, well, we'll just put Denver up there because of Jokic.
Yeah.
It was never like Denver looks like
the
team can be a contender. It was like, well, maybe Jokic can just win them a bunch of games in the playoffs, which has literally never worked for anyone outside of one LeBron James season. So that was never going to happen. So I do agree with you about Malone, and I'm pro Malone. The Malone Booth thing has been a debate forever, and I was always usually on the side of Malone, but it had become clear watching them, as someone who's watched them for years and years and years, that they have really stopped kind of responding to him. They used to play with his identity, even when they were less talented, especially defensively is the big, the big problem.
That's his big calling card. Yeah.
And they used to at least play with like your ceiling with the core of Jamal Murray, Michael Porter, and Nikola Jokic is capped defensively, but they used to play really hard, and they used to make it work because they played with Michael Malone's identity, and you don't really see that anymore. It feels like they've stopped responding to him. You had the spat the other night with Aaron Gordon and Peyton Watson on the bench, which I saw, whatever that was. And you see it in a defense that is just right now is so bad.
Yeah, I mean, they're 20th in defense on the season, and Malone has even said it seems like they're tuning. He's even admitted it seems like they're tuning him out. And I have not been as high on Malone as you and some other people. Like I just think he's benefited a lot from having Nikola Jokic on his team. Totally. So I didn't think. And no, I'm not despite me being contractually obligated to support anybody that was a Penn State basketball alum. It's actually written on the, no, I'm just kidding. It's not on my degree back there. But I have not been a fan of really much of what anything Calvin Booth has done since, I'm trying to think. Since maybe trading for KCP, like obviously the Christian Brown pick has been great. Peyton Watson, I think, was a really wise pick at the end of the first round. Julian Strawther's whatever. Jalen Pickett actually looks like a real player at this point, but like some of the other guys.
Play Jalen Pickett, I beg, over the alternative, which we will discuss later, please.
But overall for Calvin Booth, outside of drafting Christian Brown and trading for KCP, there's really nothing to write home about with this tenure. And now the Jamal Murray extension last summer is continuing to age like milk. Although they're lucky that the Joel Embiid extension happened at a similar time. And everyone's going to talk about that one first and foremost. But I think both of them going, I think, is the right move. Like, it's just the timing. Like, I was actually talking to one of my colleagues yesterday. We were just talking about the Nuggets and where we think this could be headed in the next couple of weeks. Neither of us, thought this would happen today, but I thought we'd get to the point where, okay, the Nuggets are probably going to lose in the first round, and at least Malone's going to be fired, and they're probably not going to extend Booth, and they'll try to just wipe the slate clean, because you've got to capitalize, and I want to talk about this a little bit later, capitalize on the rest of whatever Nikola Jokic's prime is. And I'm not this kind of person who's like, oh, he's going to go retire in 2 years, or he's going to fall off a cliff. Like, he is. I still think he's got 3 to 4 years of really, really high level basketball left in him. And you just have to completely change up the makeup of this team, because it's not working right now. And I think the championship window that featured also Jamal and Michael Porter Jr. and that core three that you mentioned. Aaron Gordon can lump in there as well, although I think he's definitely way more useful going forward than some of the other guys. Like, I think that window has sailed, that has passed. Like, I think last year it was a 3-year window after they traded for Aaron Gordon. Kind of throw away the first year of the 21 season because you're still getting used to each other. But then Jamal gets hurt, so the 22 years is wiped out. They win the title in 23, and last year they just run out of steam against a really bad matchup against the Timberwolves. And I think that was probably the 3-year championship window. And now you're looking at a timeline where you still have got Nikola Jokic playing at this high level, and you've just got to maximize it to the best of your ability going forward in a completely different way, and getting rid of both Malone and Booth to change whether it's defensive philosophies on the court and roster building philosophies off the court. You just have to change both those things. And all of this makes sense. It's just the timing that is so weird to me.
What does it say about everything else that Calvin, because we've both been low on the things that Booth has done. What does it say about...
And granted, I want to give him a little bit of credit because he's been hamstrung by the new rules, the new CBA, the second apron, all that kind of stuff. And they don't have an ownership group that is willing to just be like the Warriors and spend. And granted, they have spent a lot, but they haven't. It's expensive and not deep roster, which is the problem. And this roster was built in the era of where super teams and high paid guys was still all that mattered. And now in the current NBA, it's just the Celtics and the Thunder have just proven that it's all about depth and young guys and maximizing people on their younger or their rookie scale contracts and all that kind of stuff. So I just think the roster was built in a different era, and now they're kind of reaping they're suffering the repercussions of that. So like I said, I am not fully high on the Booth tenure, but I do think there wasn't a ton for him to do, but the little he did not pan out really at all.
What does it say about what he did do, that the biggest bet that the Nuggets made and that Calvin Booth made coming into this year was that we can still be a contender if Christian Braun kind of blows up and takes a big step forward. And that happened beyond anyone's expectations.
He's been way better than I thought he could be. Awesome. He's been awesome. Yes. Yeah.
What does it say that panned out and the team has still taken multiple steps back to this point? I mean, the rest of these moves, the Saric move, who they have now just benched, possibly.
I mean, he hasn't played in months.
Possibly in an attempt to convince him to decline his option and go back to Europe.
Yeah, there was that weird report where it was like he's got a pre-contract agreement with the EuroLeague team, and then I think Bennett Durando of the Denver Post reported that he did. That's not true, that he still might pick up the option. So obviously that's a huge miss. Like when you're signing guys to these vet minimum-ish deals and you're also giving them options on top of it, like with Russ too, that's the danger, is like, it's not just like vet minimums in them of themselves are like pretty low risk, but when you give guys options and when it clearly doesn't work, that's where you can run into some trouble. And it is odd to see Michael Malone this season have somebody he hated more than Zeke Naji, and that ended up being Dario Saric. I mean, Zeke actually played pretty well for decent parts of the season. I mean,
even with the vet bump that you get from Michael Malone, if you're older, you automatically get the bump, and Dario Saric still couldn't make it ahead of.
That thing soured so quickly, and the injuries this year were really weird. Like AG's been battling stuff all year. Jamal's been in and out of the lineup at times. It's really felt like Nikola and Christian Braun are the only two reliable guys they've had all season. And even Joker missed time with some weird stuff too, with the elbow stuff, the ankle stuff. Obviously, he missed a couple of games for the birth of his kid. So, I mean, it's just been a weird year that they've never really got any kind of momentum, which is why I felt like, okay, at least just give them the playoff run to see what they could do. I know the vibes are really bad right now. We can talk about the Minnesota game because that was just, I think, the culmination of the last 2-3 months of terrible defense compounded with Nikola's offense still being enough at times. But I mean, Anthony Edwards just kind of owns the Nuggets, I guess. And then the Russell Westbrook situation being good before the calendar turned to 2025, and then now it's been going pretty sour for a while, and then he has that 10-second sequence in which he just blows a double overtime game. I mean, I'm sure you as a fan were just kind of dumbfounded by that Minnesota game. And that maybe was the moment everybody realized that this is really going the wrong way.
That was the poetic justice for Mike Conley somehow not making that shot in the bubble. That probably would have gotten some people fired.
Yeah, that's
Torrey
true.
Craig was laughing at the Russ sequence. It came back 5 years later. I think the injury hurt Russ too at a time.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he was out for like a month. Yeah,
he was actually playing pretty well. I think that hurt him, but yeah, you just can't. I mean, everyone who's watched Russ on the Rockets and on the Wizards and on the Lakers and on the Clippers kind of knew what they were signing up for here. And he is like, I know Joker wanted him, so that's part of it. And I know that he's a decent fit with Joker. You saw that this season at times with the cutting and just, being just making himself available offensively and being able to give the bench some juice, being able to give the team some juice without Murray when Jokic is on the floor. But missing a wide open layup and then fouling a 3-point shooter to lose a game in a standalone national TV game.
Everyone was watching that game. Yeah.
It was just I can't think of a more perfect way for the Russell Westbrook experience to be winding down here. And now, I mean, mentally, he looks just like a mess really since then. I mean, we'll talk about the interview. He's missed so many layups in the last 3 games that
a lot of free throws. All that's kind of been the whole season too.
During the Spurs game, I think I made a list in my phone. I might have deleted it of the last 5 minutes of the game. And this was the game where I had 0. There was the game where nobody played. So it was like Russ is out there and he actually played pretty well. He scored a bunch of points. But in the last 5 minutes,
Jalen Pickett triple-double game, as will forever be known as.
In the last 5 minutes, I think he missed 2 layups. He forgot to play defense at least once, and Mamu got like a back cut for a dunk.
Yeah, I remember that play. Yeah, I think he also Mamu got like also a wide open offensive rebound off of him as well. Yeah,
that was at the end. That was like the last. He also drove in the lane and jumped up in the air and then threw the ball over the bench into literally, I think, the 10th row. Like, I'm not even exact. I think there was 10 rows of seats in front of the basketball. It was, and just, I don't know. Since the Minnesota game, he's like, he always kind of has his moments. He's just a volatile player.
Yeah, always has been.
You're getting in. Yeah, even when he was like a star.
And, even when he was the MVP. Yeah.
Yeah. But I feel like the Minnesota thing happened and it was kind of trending down before that. And then that happened. And since then it has just been, he's all over the place, really. He shot a pull-up 3 from way behind the line at some point in that sequence too, with like more than 10 seconds on the shot clock. I was like,
Yeah, well, I mean, the Jamal injury has not helped at all. Like,
no,
because
does anyone know how this happened yet?
No, I'm interested to find this out, and obviously, I won't be at the game on Friday. I wish I could go to watch them play the Grizzlies, but I'll be in St. Louis covering the Frozen Four. But it'll be fascinating to find more about the Jamal injury because obviously Malone makes the comment the other day before the game that like it's been a weird one where it was like day to day, and then all of a sudden it's not day to day. Like, did he have a setback or something? Like that seems pretty obvious. Like it just it's really been a weird Jamal. I mean, there's been a lot of weird Jamal injury seasons, but this one has just been pretty random. And
every season since the bubble, other than the championship year, was a weird Jamal injury season.
Even that season, he didn't really get going until January, and then he finally became Jamal and was able to just sustain it for a couple weeks in May and June, which was obviously so key in them dominating their way to the title. But since then, it's been a lot of my calf, my knee, my ankle, and now the hamstring, and it's like, okay, is he not going to play in the playoffs? Is that part of this too? That's part of the reason I was like, okay, maybe they're just punting on the postseason in general and just getting a head start on the offseason because they know Jamal's not coming back. And if he's not coming back, they're just absolutely screwed. Regardless of what Nikola can do for you offensively. the defense is just broken at this point fundamentally. I was watching some clips of people breaking down like how bad they are at scrambling because Nikola wants to play defensively one way. Like he loves to switch and be at the top of the defense. And they're just really bad at scrambling, and they're giving up so many wide open looks at the basket that it's just puzzling at times at how this is the way you want to play. But regardless, that'll be talked about whenever new coach comes in.
It was so the other night I'm sitting up here and I'm watching Nuggets Pacers on one screen and I had Rockets Warriors on the other, where both these teams are just flying around everywhere. Great rotations, great scrambling, these great individual defenders everywhere. And Nuggets Pacers, nobody's mistaking the Pacers for the 04 Pistons either.
No.
It was like two different sports happening.
Yeah.
The defense, the Malone, I meant to say this earlier. The Malone nobody watches film thing was a cry for help. One of my favorite press conference cries for help from a coach ever. Nobody watches film was great.
I wanted to. Well, we already both kind of gave our thoughts on if this actually helps the Nuggets postseason chances or not, and I just really don't see how. I mean, I just don't see how the best case scenario I feel like is they somehow win out and get the 3 or the 4 seed, win a round against a tough team, and then lose in the second round. I just think that's the best case scenario at this point, because I just feel like we could be headed toward some kind of blow up this summer. Whether I really do not think Nikola Jokic is ever going to be the guy to ask out. Like I think he would retire before asking out. But just, is there anybody that comes to mind of like, are you not even thinking about this yet, about GM candidates, coach candidates, anybody that comes to your mind of like, I mean, this, like we said, this has felt like it could be coming. And I felt like this was going to happen at the end of the season. At least Malone was going to be gone. If it went the way I expected, which I think I even predicted this in our Denver Gazette preseason predictions. I had the Nuggets as the 4 seed, ironically losing. I said they would lose to the 5 seed Mavericks and Luka in the first round, and then Malone would get fired. And now they could end up losing to the Luka Lakers in the first round.
Terrible take by you to say that Luka was going to play for the Mavericks all season. Terrible.
Yeah, that was really bold. Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking on that one. I should have expected Luka was going to get traded midseason. But is there anything kind of you're thinking about looking forward to the offseason? I mean, or are you still trying to give this team any kind of a shot, whether it is end up being in the play-in or beyond? Just kind of what is your overall thoughts going forward here?
I mean, I've been out on this team as a championship. I said this earlier.
Yeah.
I've been out on this team as a championship team longer than most, I think. I think they could beat Memphis in a series, maybe. I think they could beat maybe the Rockets, but that's more about me not really knowing what the Rockets are going to be in a playoff series than about anything about Denver. I don't see them beating anyone else. I wouldn't pick them to beat the Rockets really either right now.
Lakers, Warriors.
Thompson on Jamal Murray would have to be put behind parental controls.
Jamal just might sit it out. He might.
It's very possible. He's gonna turn on the Amen Thompson versus Steph Curry tape from the other night and be like,
"No, I'm good." Actually, no, I'm still not ready yet, guys. Don't worry.
Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. It feels like play-in to me. They are trending not the same way that these other teams are trending. All of these other teams really are playing well, except Memphis, who I think they won the other night, so they're even kind of.
They had a game winner last week.
I did watch that.
But overall, they're also in a similar vibe situation. It feels like, of like what's going to happen this summer, kind of thing.
Shaw is more concerned with showing up the league office than anything else, really, at the moment.
Yeah, not the greatest look.
Nuggets Grizzlies first round would be hilarious. 2 interim coaches, the worst vibe series you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah. I don't know if there's ever been a playoff series with 2 interim coaches.
That would be interesting. I wonder. But I don't know. We'll see this offseason. I think the MPJ trade is the one that the writing is kind of on the wall for that too.
Yeah. I mean,
That
he's
feels like
somehow he's easier to trade than Jamal Murray at this point. Although I would be looking to trade both of them for
yeah,
sure. Like I think, like I was talking about earlier, you just simply have to change course and
yeah,
change your
totally.
identity as a franchise, as a team with how you look surrounding Nikola Jokic. For like I said, I do think he's got 3 to 4 years left of high level basketball, and more Christian Brown types, more Peyton Watson types. Keep Jalen Pickett around, that's for sure.
We could
But
draft Christian Brown 3 more times. That would be
yeah,
great.
but
I'm fine with that.
just getting more athletes, getting a little bit deeper, because I think at this point, Nikola is just so good offensively that it really doesn't matter who the personnel around him is.
Yeah,
Like you've seen that throughout how many games
the
this
floor
season.
is really high.
Yeah, where you're just seeing him carry lineups that feel like they shouldn't work offensively, and he's just making it work by himself. And the downside of that is he's not really doing that on the defensive end really at all. I think Nicola's always been a pretty solid team defender, but
Yes,
when the team defensive identity is so broken, his issues and his his shortcomings are exacerbated by that when the
totally.
system is fundamentally broken, which it has been for much of this season. So I think if you can try to move off both Jamal and MPJ, and I'll save a lot of this talk for the offseason when it actually comes, but that would be my first objective, is just trying to get off those contracts and getting 5 or 6 guys that you feel like can help you depth wise. And even if only 3 or 4 of them help, like just trying to surround Nikola with a defensive structure that makes a little bit more sense, and hope that he can continue to be the same offensive player, which I think that's a pretty wise bet.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, we'll see what the market is for the both of them because they're not on team friendly contracts exactly.
Weirdly, Mike's deal is pretty short. I think he's only got 2 years left after
Yeah,
this year, or 2 or 3 years left, and Jamal's extension kicks in the summer, so that's difficult. But we'll see if anybody is interested in either of those guys. But that would be
Mike.
my first move.
Mike has just taken so Jamal. I can understand. I think I would be on your side of this too, and lean towards maybe shopping around and seeing what you could get. But I could at least understand them saying, offensively, we are at our best when Jamal is really clicking and flowing and wanting to keep him around and seeing
Yeah,
if maybe you can stretch one more healthy year out of him, or at least a healthy year from March on.
yeah. Second half of the season, healthy
Yeah,
second half of the season.
yeah, we'll see. The first half of the season is what it is at this point. It's the same thing every year. Mike he's just taken such a step back defensively, I feel like. And Mike has never been this like a great defender, but I do feel like in the title years, in the championship year and the years around that, he was at least a decent, team
Putting in the effort that you
Yeah,
needed
he
to.
played hard. He was, he fell asleep sometimes. That's just how he is. But, he was at least decent at being in the right spots. He was on time, especially as the low man, as a help side guy. He at least tried to move his feet and not give up straight line drives, when he's closing out. And now it's just like, man, he is a mess on that end. And he's just a shooter still, and it's just not like there hasn't been enough growth there to me to not move off of him this
Yeah.
summer. And I was against trading him for a while. This has been a discussion for a while.
Yeah.
I was against it for a while, but he just kind of is what he is at this point. And as the defense kind of falls back down, you're paying so much money for a guy who is just he's a great shooter, but he's not a shot creator, and he's just a total negative on defense. And like you said, when you had Jokic is a good team defender, and when he has good defenders around him that hide his weaknesses, and having MPJ on the floor is doing the opposite of that right now.
Yeah, and my stance of maybe it's time to trade Jamal and shop him as well is I'm not saying I don't think Jamal can still be a high level player. I just think
Yeah, totally.
it's really time to just commit to a different
Yes.
structure and just like a different roster building strategy. And they don't have a lot of avenues to do that. Like even if you trade MPJ and you get 2 or 3 guys back for him, or find a way to do that and get off the money and use it in different guys that fit what you're looking to do.
Andrew Wiggins.
Yeah. Well, maybe.
Andrew Wiggins.
I'll save the trade scenarios for another day once I can actually get a decent trade machine going for the offseason and have that, see the way to make the money work. Because I just don't think that the era of stars is and just 2 or 3 or 4 big contract guys is really the way to go. Now the Celtics are they have 5 or 6 big contract guys that they just got the guys in the door and extended them at the right times, and drafting Tatum and Brown helped obviously, and finding and kind of being gifted Holiday and White and Porzingis and all those guys.
Whatever has gotten into Al Horford since he left your team.
Don't even get me started on Al Horford. And speaking of the Sixers, I mean, like, that is not gone well, and for various reasons, but I think even last summer I was telling people that, like, I wouldn't sign Paul George, and I didn't think Paul George was going to be this season, but I just thought it was more well spent on using that money to beef up the starting lineup and get guys that surrounded Embiid and Maxey. And I think it's the same thing for Denver. And I just think I would keep AG because I still think he's at a reasonable number for what he brings you, and he's had. Maybe it would be the time to cash in on him because he has had the best shooting season of his career, and maybe you don't think that's sustainable. Which is the other ironic part of this is that they've gotten the best shooting season of Aaron Gordon too, and that's another thing that's gone well, and it has kind of gone under the gone unnoticed with how bad everything else is. So
that's the one thing that I keep waiting for, like he'll take shots sometimes now because he's been shooting the ball well for so long.
The end of that Wolves game was that perfect example of some of those heaters he took.
He'll take shots where I'm like, why are you taking? And then I kind of go, well,
he's shooting 40%.
I was like, I guess we're at the end of the season now, and he's still shooting it at the same clip. So maybe.
Yeah, there's just really no big ways to shake things up unless you're trading 1 or 2 or I feel like at least 2 of those 3 guys that are making big money, because you still, other than those guys, I think Zeke is the 5th highest paid player on the team right now. And,
another Calvin Booth special right there.
Yeah. Christian Brown's going to need to get extended sometime soon. Peyton Watson as well. Like those guys are going to come up soon as well. And I don't think they're going to be cheap. Like they're certainly quality rotation guys that you're going to want to keep around. So making this roster more expensive and less CB for sure is going to be at least like a 25 million player, 25 million a year kind of guy. It's just going to be interesting to see what happens in this offseason. And it's weird to be talking about the offseason already with 3 games left in the regular season and then playoffs coming, which I'll be there for. Like whatever happens, if there's a play-in game next week in Denver, I'll be there for it. It'll be fascinating to see what happens here, but it just is a crazy. I want to wrap this up by saying this: it is a crazy and really sharp decline from 2023 to see what has happened less than 2 years later. And I know a lot of Nuggets fans, you may feel this way too, Troy, is just kind of feeling just bad for Malone today, just because earlier this season he becomes the all-time leader in wins in franchise history. He's given so much to this franchise, and to have it end like this just feels pretty cheap and undeserving, even if someone like me who wasn't as high on Michael Malone, and I didn't really rate him as one of the 5 or 10 best coaches in the league, but he has given so much to this franchise that it does feel a little sour for it to end all like this on a Tuesday in early April.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I've said it already. I'm very pro Malone, and I love Malone, and I always will. But I'm also someone who has been on Booth's behind for years and years for doing the young guys thing and saying, why are we planning for 3 years from now when we have the best player in the NBA? And it was pretty clear that whatever Malone's message was not getting through, and that this was going nowhere the way it was.
Yeah.
And so while I do feel for Malone, and I do agree with you that this is kind of a bad way to end it, and 3 games left in the season is kind of insane.
Especially for a guy who got canned a week into the season in Sacramento during his second season there, which was just one of the dumbest things and one of the cruelest things I've seen for a coach in a while. Yeah.
I'm not going to get on the front office, though, for looking at this and saying this is going nowhere. And maybe, like I said, it was the last punch that they had to throw I think, for this season. And I'm not mad. I joke with my buddy that the season was 100% over this morning, and it's now 99.5% over. Because maybe the shakeup does something, probably not.
Maybe it sends a message to the locker room and gets these
Yeah.
guys motivated, because it's clear that they've not been responding to the coaching staff. Although it's not a new coaching staff, it's still David Adelman and the same assistant. Like, so we'll see. I don't know. I'm not.
I don't know if
optimistic.
I don't know if they feel the urgency of the situation. I don't know.
They haven't shown it for months. Like,
I don't know, man. I don't know, man.
It's been a wild season. Yeah, that's a good way to end it, is giving the Russell Westbrook line of just, I don't know. Hope so. Kind of, you know.
So. I can't speak for them.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. You're the oldest guy on the team, or one of the oldest guys on the team. You should be able to be a little bit of a presence. But, you know, that's neither here nor there. This is the Russell Westbrook thing is ending exactly how it was supposed to. So that's at least there's that. But the Michael Malone
is
era,
I hate that I have to be the I told you so Russell Westbrook guy.
Because early in the season, it was like everyone was like, "Hey, this is better. Look at Russ, and everyone, and guys like you and me who are like, just give it time. Just give it time.
I saw Clippers fans say, "Look at Russ in November of last year too."
Yeah,
whenever he was starting up last year. I don't know. So.
All right. Well, thanks for hopping on, Troy, for this emergency episode to let it all out there for Nuggets fans, because it is one of the crazier and more stunning days in franchise history. And like I said, even Denver sports history, even someone like me who's only lived here for a couple of years, like, I can pretty tell by all the people that have been here for a long time and lived here and grew up here like you, like it is one of the more shocking developments we've seen with these franchises, which honestly are kind of chock full of them. But this one's definitely got to be up there. So I appreciate you coming on and letting it all out there on a weird day and a dark day for this season in particular, at least.
Thanks, Tyler. Always a pleasure.
All right, that'll do it from this episode of Basketball in the Mountains. Sorry, it's been a little bit. I think I haven't done an episode since before the Sweet 16, but obviously with BYU and Arizona losing, no teams left for us to talk about. But we'll recap some of those seasons coming up here. Probably not this week. Like I said, I'll be busy in St. Louis covering the Frozen Four, and then next week NBA playoffs start, so I'll have a preview for whatever the Nuggets are doing, whether it's the play-in or if they're able to sneak in the top six and see who their opponent is. So we'll do all that and then mix in recapping some of the seasons. Like, I do want to talk about Arizona. I want to talk about Arizona State, just all these teams that are kind of interesting here. And hopefully we'll get some guests on to do that, because there are a lot of interesting moves, whether it's guys going in the transfer portal. Like I said a couple weeks ago, I wanted to see how that shakes out, and some of it's the dust is starting to settle, but there's still a lot of uncertainty for a lot of the programs we talk about and cover on this show. So appreciate everybody listening. Make sure to go subscribe, rate, review on Spotify, Apple, or on my YouTube page if you prefer to watch it on there. And thanks again to Troy for coming on. You can go follow him at Troy Finnegan on Twitter, X, whatever, and read all of his work on ClutchPoints. So that'll do it from this episode, and everybody enjoy the last week of basketball in the NBA in the regular season.